Now in JavaScript, there's a very important concept called function hoisting. Now you already might be familiar with variable hoisting. Variable hoisting means any variables that are declared are actually hoisted to the top automatically by JavaScript, which means you can reference them before they're even declared. The same thing works with functions. Whenever you declare a function, those functions are automatically hoisted to the very top of the code, which means you can actually refer to a function and call it before it's even declared. For example, we can have a variable weight, which equals pounds to kg 56. Now in this case, we didn't even define the pounds to kg function, right? So this should throw in an error because the pounds to kg function is not even declared. However, if we take in the value of weight, then we can see it's 25.401152, and that's because we've defined this function later on. So function pounds to kg, and then the pounds as a parameter value, and then we're returning pounds into 0.453592. And now, because we're declaring this function eventually, this whole function declaration is actually hoisted to the very top. So when we refer to that function, variable weight equals pounds to kg 56, then when that code is executed, this pounds to kg function is already actually available because this whole function declaration has been hoisted to the top. Which means you can actually refer and call the functions even before they're declared. So just because you're calling a function that hasn't been declared yet doesn't mean it'll throw an error. If you eventually declare that function later on in your code, and then that function will be hoisted to the top and the code should work correctly. So in this case, the whole function declaration, which means function pounds to kg and return value and everything, is hoisted to the very top of this code. And then when we declare variable weight and assign the value pounds to kg 56, then the pounds to kg function runs, and 56 is represented by the parameter named pounds inside the function, and the return value is pounds into 0.453592, which means 56 will be multiplied by 0.453592, and that's the value that will be returned. And now the weight variable contains the correct value, and we've converted 56 pounds into kilograms. Now in JavaScript, you can have recursive functions. Recursive functions are functions that call themselves inside their function body. So how does this work? So let's define a function called sayHello. So function sayHello, an empty pair of parentheses because we don't need any parameters, and then inside the function body, let's log the text hello there to the console. And now let's call this same function inside the function body. Now this might seem a bit crazy, but this is perfectly valid code. We're just calling the function itself inside the function's body. So we're defining the sayHello function, and at the end, we are actually calling the sayHello function itself. And then if we end the code, and then if we call this function by typing in sayHello and then the pair of parentheses, then the function code runs, which means we get console.log hello there, so it logs to the console hello there, and then the sayHello function runs again because that function call is inside the function, which means the sayHello function will run again, logging into the console hello there one more time, and then the sayHello function will run again, and this will continue on and on and on forever and ever and ever, and this runs infinitely. So if you run this code, it might actually crash your browser because it'll continue logging the string hello there forever for thousands of millions of times. So be careful with this kind of code, because with recursive functions, if you don't define a stopping point, then the function will call itself again and again and again, and it'll create an infinite loop of the same function being called and the same code being executed over and over again forever. Now, if you want to use recursive functions, then you need to define a stopping point. You need to break the loop at some point, and you can do that in a certain way. So for example, for this, we'll define the same function again, function sayHello, but this time we'll accept a parameter. We'll call it n. This is the value that will represent how many times the function have been called. And then we define a condition, and the condition is that if the value of this n parameter is equal to 10 or more than that, then it should return, which means the function should stop executing and it should return from anything and everything it's doing. And then we can go on with what we were doing, console.log hello there. And then when we call the function again, we type in n plus 1. So we're taking the variable that's available as n, and then we're adding 1 to that, which means every time the function is called recursively and the function loops itself over and over again, the value of n will change. And now we have to call the function giving n an initial value. So say hello and then 0 inside parentheses means the n parameter has an initial value of 0, which means it'll start from 0, and then the if clause in this case returns false because n is not equal to or more than 10 right now, right? So the condition is false, and that means the return statement is not executed. So the string hello there is logged to the console, and then when we run the function again, say hello, this time we type in n plus 1. Now n in this case is 0, and so n plus 1 means 0 plus 1, which means 1. Now when the second time this function runs, the value of n in this case is 1. And now the whole conditional checking and text logging goes all over again, and the next time when we call the say hello function, n plus 1, which means 1 plus 1, which means 2, which means every time the function is called, the value of n increases by 1. And eventually, when the value of n reaches 0, then the conditional, if n is greater than or equal to 10, returns true. And that time, the return statement is executed and the function is stopped. Which means in this case, we get the string hello there logged to the console a finite number of times. In this case, only 10 times. And that's how you can run recursive functions a finite number of times.